Hey everyone, it's Serenity, and today for this video, I thought I would talk about something I've was wanting to do for a while now, but I guess I was just trying to figure out a time when to do it, and I've got a lot of time right now, so I figure I'd talk to you guys about it. I started working at this place called Best Buy. For you guys who don't live in the United States, it is basically the biggest electronics company. It has everything from computers to tablets, televisions, appliances, small appliances, whatever you can imagine. And I was working there for 3 years. Now, this is just my experience with it, so there are people who probably also work there too that probably had a different experience than I did, but this is just what I went through when I worked there. The first couple years were great. I was hired there as a cashier by, we'll say, this guy, we'll call him Steven. Now, Steven, he was a great manager. Although I found out he was very lenient with all of the policies, all of the rules, I thought he got along with everybody quite well, and out of the managers that were there when I worked there, I think he was one of my favorites. I guess he left. I don't know why, and I tried finding out, but I guess it was in my position too, since, you know, cashiers are kind of, I feel like, at the bottom of the tier. We just never really knew much of what was going on because we were always in charge of the front of the store. The only thing that I mainly knew about was people who were stealing stuff, because I saw them sometimes run out the door with stuff. I saw customer run out and pepper spray. Yes, he actually pepper sprayed one of our security people. Ran over to our Walmart that was next door. Walmart's just kind of a big, you know, grocery clothing store. It has pretty much everything there. He asked the people to get our little security device that was on there off, and I guess they kept the device for us and the product that he stole, and he kind of went away, and people from Walmart actually brought it back to us, which is really cool. I've seen people get wrestled down right like on either side of me from the security people who were trying to get people to give up their stuff that they had stolen. I had seen people go into the room that we had specifically for people who were selling stuff and wait for the police officers to come by, and there were actually times when a lot of police officers came by, give us like a paper slip, tell them that they weren't allowed to come within a certain amount from the store. They were pretty much banned from going inside of there as soon as they stole something, if that was the case. It usually depended on what they stole. Sometimes it was little stuff that they were stealing. Stuff like headphones, heard CDs was a lot of things that got stolen, video games. I would always hear about security watching people through our headsets that we had. We couldn't really say much of anything. We just had to act like we didn't know anything, but we still had to watch them and see what they did. You know, not pose any suspicion that we were watching them and that we knew what they were doing. We just had to kind of treat them like a customer. When, you know, we had to ask about protection plans to offer towards the customer in case they wanted some extra insurance for their product that they were getting. There were a lot of times when people hated me for saying it. There were people who really wanted it because they knew what would happen, or if they've had the problem happen before, they're like, yes, I want that because last time I had it, you guys were so great in replacing my product right away, because there were some times when we had this replacement plan to where if something happened to it, and we would replace it right away. Like, for example, if sound went out on one side of headphones, but they still stayed in the other one, we would replace them out right away because that was a common thing that happened with headphones. And there were even like competitions where we had to sell a certain amount of protection plans in front with just like customer service and the front lanes, or just with front lanes in general, and I ended up winning one of them, so I got a really cool prize from that. It was a Bose SoundLink, which is pretty much old-fashioned now, since they have like a mini one now that is a whole lot better. Mine is like yay big and maybe like a few inches in width. But it still works pretty well. It's one of my favorite things to use. As I said before, Steven ended up leaving the company and we got a new manager. We'll call him Paul. Now, Paul was a little bit more strict. He wanted everything to be perfect. He wanted us all to go by the rules. And especially when it came to credit card applications, he was especially strict with that. He also had this rule I found out after I left, that if you weren't over a certain age in the front lanes, you had to use this little laminate sheet that they got us about the protection plans and put those out to your customers during your interaction with them at the front lanes. Now, of course, when you've already memorized what the protection plans do, what they're for, what they will cover, you don't really need the laminate sheet anymore, but he was insistent on having those people who were a certain age, you know, bring those out to people. I guess my time there with Paul wasn't always the best. There were the typical customers that I had at the front lanes, and there were some people who just didn't take too lightly with what I was trying to tell them, because a lot of people felt like I was being too pushy. People thought I was being too like demanding with them. They just got really upset with me and they're like, why can't you understand that when I say no, I mean no? Back when I worked with Steven and, you know, our old team that we had up in the front lanes, because we had also a different team lead, I was told that if a customer has the credit card, to come back with a counter telling them about getting, if it qualified for 6 months no interest financing, that the protection plan would go along with it. So instead of them having to pay it up all at once, they would only be paying it like divided by 6, for example. And I guess a lot of people took that as me being too, I don't know, I guess I just thought I wasn't listening to them. And, you know, I always want the best for people. I know that with my experience with electronics and what I saw always going through customer service and what people were leaving with, being so disappointed that they weren't even able to get their product replaced or get another one, I knew what people had to go through in those times. I always wanted the best for people, and I wanted them to see the value in what they were purchasing, not just, you know, oh, this is, if this happens to your product, you won't be able to get another one because you don't get the protection for it. Or like, say, if your tablet battery is dying in 2 years, that is something that our company would cover, and we would just replace you out with the latest model of whatever one you got, or we'd give you a brand new one if perhaps we didn't have that model in the store. It happened at time with a printer, and family actually ended up telling Paul about the incident. There were so many times when, you know, especially during, I think it was the holidays. I think it started in like November of 2014 that I was going through this problem phase, I guess I would say, with the company. I guess the manager just didn't really like me. I don't know what the deal with it was, because I was put on like this 3-month period where I had to get a certain percentage of good customer feedback. And up at the front lanes, that is very difficult. Yeah, you'll have your person who doesn't really like you, and then you'll have a person who loves you and raves about you all the time. But I remember I had like 2 months where I was above 80%, and then because I had went on a trip, you know, with my husband, I think it was when we went back to Ohio in that summer, they said, oh, because you weren't here and you weren't able to get that amount for this month, we have to reset you back to the beginning. So it came a long time to have my, well, it was at least my 3-year evaluation to see if I would get a raise. And every single time, you know, with Steven, I got a raise. But for some really odd reason, with Paul, I didn't get a raise because he said of my customer feedback being so low and I wasn't doing very well in the company. I just don't know what it was. I just got the impression he didn't really like me. He didn't like what I was doing for the customers. He didn't like how I handled things, and that I had been there for such a long time that my old values didn't really work well with how the store was now. And I am a very adjustable person. You know, you change my schedule and I'm fine with it. I had done everything right that I could have thought, and there was still something that wasn't really clicking with me and this manager. There were times when I was put on so many finals, they asked me why I should get a second chance. I always kept saying, because I'm trying my best, I'm doing what I can, I'm trying to take everybody's advice and criticisms into what I do to make everything better. It had come to a time where I basically wasn't even talking to customers. Like, I wasn't really interacting with them like I used to, because there were so many problems that my managers had told me that I was doing wrong, that I basically just said, hi, how are you doing? Do you find everything okay? This is how much your product is. Did you want a protection plan with it? No? Okay, that's fine. This is your total. Did you want to pay with debit or credit? Or did you want to do cash? Thank you very much. Have a nice day. And that was it. There was no connection there that I could build with the customer, because my manager's saying that I had to pretty much cut out everything that I was doing because they felt like what I was doing was wrong. Then there just came a time with the last final where they were like, we don't know what to do with you anymore. We've tried everything we can and you don't seem to be improving. What can we do? I was just like, nothing is working out for me either. I'm trying to do the best that I can. You guys aren't seeing it. I'm just going to put in my 2-week notice and I'll quit. They're like, okay, we'll send that on over to HR and you'll be gone in 2 weeks. I think I had like a week to go, and I was working Sunday. I was doing a morning shift, maybe ending at like 2 or 3, something like that. At the end of my shift, Paul says he wants to talk to me. So I'm like, okay, fine. He probably wants to have me sign the final paperwork to get me on my way, since I'll be leaving soon. He actually gave me a second chance to decide whether or not I wanted to be fired. Now, at this time, I was getting food stamps. And I was told by my family that if I decided to be fired, I would get unemployment benefits and at least like $200 from the company because I wasn't working there anymore. So I said, well, if you guys feel like I have not been that great of an employee and you would rather fire me, then go on ahead and fire me. Paul actually said that, well, hey, I know you're on food stamps and you get benefits from the government, so if you decide to be fired, I will fight you for that money that you get for the government, and I have not lost a case every single time I've done it. So, of course, he sounded like he was threatening me, and I didn't know how to take it because I never expected him to do that. I was just like, okay, well, if you feel like that is the case, then I think I'll just stick with my 2-week notice of quitting. And he said, well, okay, if you decide to quit, then I will make sure that no other Best Buy company hires you in the state of Arizona if you ever want to go and be at another Best Buy. I will make sure that they do not hire you because of how badly you did here and how horrible of an employee you were. Knowing that information, it's like it didn't really matter anymore because whatever I decided to do wasn't going to affect me in either way because I knew by that time I was going to be moving to Sweden, and this was in August of 2015 that I had this conversation. I think I left on like the 23rd of August, I think it was. I'm not quite sure. But I just decided, you know what? Just give me my 2-week notice and I'll leave next week. He's like, okay, that's fine. And he sent me off on my way. I returned home. I told my family about everything that had happened. That was at the time when my oldest brother Brian and his family were living here. And he was like, do you have his email address? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, give me your phone. I'm going to email him and tell him that you just quit today. You're not coming in for any more of your shifts. I know you want to go in there for just the money because that's really the only reason why you're there is to get more money, and I will let him know that you're not coming in, that you are done today, and that will be it. So I actually gave him my phone, and he sent the email over to Paul. He's like, your final check will be sent to your direct deposit in the bank account that you provided. It won't be sent to the home. I will put that in that you're not going to be coming anymore. Needless to say, I didn't have a really good work experience, although I was there for 3 years, which is the longest I have worked at a company. It wasn't the best experience, and it has gotten me wary of getting another job, at least in retail or as a cashier, because of that experience that I had. But now with moving to Sweden, my husband Sebastian actually says that my whole resume that I had here in the US is wiped clean. They don't really care about that anymore, and I can basically do whatever I want to over there. It doesn't really matter about the retail experience that I had, if I haven't worked in a restaurant before, if I don't really know Swedish that much. There's still a lot of places that I can work at where I don't have to know Swedish. There's actually a lot of places that will hire me just basically knowing English, and then I can learn Swedish along the way. That was great to hear, and I'm hoping that when my husband and I leave for Sweden on the 7th of January, that I'll be able to find a job in good time, be able to learn the things that I need to, and everything will turn out okay. This is my last job at Best Buy, this location wasn't really the best. It got me a little hesitant about my future jobs and what I'm actually good at. It's like what I thought I was good at, what I thought I wasn't really true, because Paul basically asked me, you know, did you have this issue at any other retail jobs that you've had where you've had so many customer complaints? And I'm like, no, never. There has never been a time where I've had to quit a job because of, he says it's customers, but I think it was just the fact that he didn't like me. That was at least my experience with this retail company called Best Buy here in the United States. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe below if you are not already subscribed, and if you are new to my page, hello, welcome. Also, if you hit that bell next to the subscribe button, you will be notified whenever I do post new videos on YouTube. I don't know if I will be posting another video. I might. My husband is going to be here. He is coming in on the 19th, but his flight will be late at night, so. But with him being here, I probably won't post another one until after or around the time we leave for Sweden. I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas. Also, have a very happy New Year. I hope everything turns out well for you guys. And I wish you all lots of love, light, peace, and blessings for the new year. Bye, guys.